Welcome to the Roy Morgan Weekly Update. And an overseas trip for the Prime Minister to visit the United States has paid dividends in a political sense, with support for the Albanese government recovering after a sharp dip last week following the defeat of the referendum. Support for the Albanese government increased 3.5% to 53% and is clearly back ahead of the coalition on 47% on a two-party preferred basis. Now, Roy Morgan polling of Australians over several decades has consistently shown support for the government or the party in office rises when the Prime Minister travels overseas. And last Monday, Prime Minister Albanese landed in the United States and has spent an entire week meeting important politicians and figures in the United States, including a state dinner with US President Joe Biden. But despite the political benefit for the government, other key indicators were down this week. This week, government confidence was down by 6 points to 72, well below the neutral level of 100 and the lowest it's been since the Albanese government was elected. Most Australians, or at least 57% of them, say the country's going in the wrong direction, and only 29% say the country's heading in the right direction. ANZ Roy Morgan consumer confidence fell by 3.2 points to 75 this week, mostly driven by rising concerns about the next 12 months, both in terms of personal finances and the broader Australian economy. The increasing discussion in the past week that the Reserve Bank's likely to raise interest rates again at next week's meeting has no doubt added to the negativity many people feel about their personal financial situation and the wider economic picture. But in some more positive news, inflation expectations were down 0.5 percentage points to 5.2% this week. So Australians are now expecting annual inflation to be 5.2% over the next 2 years. And despite the fall, inflation expectations are still higher than the low of 4.9% we recorded in mid-September. And they've averaged 5.3% over the last 4 weeks during October. Next, we look at the pressing issue, at least as pressing for many Australians, of mortgage stress. Roy Morgan's the only company that measures mortgage stress every month, and the latest Roy Morgan mortgage stress figures are out now for September. 30.3% of all mortgage holders are now at risk. This figure equates to an estimated 1.5 million, in fact 1.573 thousand mortgage holders at risk of mortgage stress, up 7,000 on August, and a new record high. If you're looking at the chart and see 35.6% of mortgage holders at risk during the global financial crisis and only 30.3% now, the record number of people is because there's now a much larger pool of Australians with mortgages. There are more Australians and a higher proportion have mortgages. In addition, 20.5% of mortgage holders are now extremely at risk. This is equivalent to 1,043,000 mortgage holders and is the highest figure for those extremely at risk. These figures are concerning enough, but if the Reserve Bank lifts interest rates further in November, and perhaps even in December as well, the numbers will continue to increase. The higher than average ABS inflation figures for September and the stronger than expected retail sales figures for September, released just this week, have both put added pressure on the Reserve Bank to raise interest rates again, perhaps as soon as next week. Roy Morgan also forecasts the level of mortgage stress in the months ahead based on projected interest rate increases. So if the Reserve Bank increases interest rates to 4.35% next month, this would increase the number of mortgage holders at risk of mortgage stress by 8,000 to 1,581,000 people. And if the Reserve Bank increases interest rates again in December to 4.6%, that would increase the number of mortgage holders at risk of mortgage stress by a total of 39,000 to 1,612,000, or 31% of all mortgage holders. Clearly, there are many Australians keeping a keen eye on what the Reserve Bank decides to do next week on Melbourne Cup Day. And finally this week, we have the results of Roy Morgan's annual Trusted Brand Awards. These awards were last week presented to a wide range of Australian brands across 20 categories, and there were standout winners, including Kmart, Bunnings, Australia Post, Toyota, the Salvation Army, the ABC, Bendigo Bank, Australian Super, PayPal, and more. But the most prestigious, Best of the Best, Most Trusted Brand in Australia award was again won by Woolworths, a second consecutive win for the fresh food people. So Woolworths is now officially Australia's most trusted brand. Woolworths CEO Brad Banducci and Chief Marketing Officer Andrew Hicks accepted the two awards on behalf of Australia's largest supermarket chain. For more information about the Roy Morgan Trusted Brand Awards, click on the links below this video. And that's a wrap for this week.